Welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. Brought to you by Elite Consulting Partners, it's the only podcast offering unfiltered guidance and direct advice for all things concerning financial advisors, RIAs, and the practitioners in the wealth management business. Learn more and subscribe today at eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcast. And now, here's your host, Frank LaRosa.
Hey everybody, welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. I am your host, Frank LaRosa, and I am joined, as always, with my co-host, Stacey Frank, Executive Vice President of Sales and Recruiting with Elite Consulting Partners. What's going on?
As always, happy to be back.
Happy to be back.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back, and I was away for a little bit. For those of you who may or may not know or follow me on Instagram, I'm glad to be back. And today's gonna be one of those topics where I guess you have a bunch of questions for me.
Yeah, I do.
So,
well, you know, we talk to financial advisors all day, and we talk to our consultants here about their financial advisors all day, and we listen for common themes. And it just seems like over the last really 6, 8, 10 months that one of the common questions we get is, okay, so I figured out which firm I'm going to with our guidance, of course. We're situated, all of our clients are over, kind of now what? Can you and your team help us with some practice management? And at first I was like, yeah, well, Frank does that. He just did that in his wirehouse days and building his own business here. So sure. And I've just sort of been generically farming Frank out, use that word lightly, farming Frank and his expertise out to talk to advisors about building efficiencies and what are some key considerations just for practice management in general, things that could apply to really almost any business, but in these cases, specifically to financial advisor practices. So we often get the question, so my question to you is, how should we be answering that? As truly consultants that we are, this is critical. Practice management principles. And what should they be?
You know, so we do some of this. We don't necessarily advertise it all that much, but we do offer practice management coaching, really accountability coaching, guidance. You know, like a good branch manager used to do back in the day, right? And there are still some really good branch managers that help their advisors. But what better coaching and practice management coaching help you can get by working with someone that has been doing it, has been in the business for 30 years, runs an organization that generally is bigger than any financial advisor's practice that we come across. So, you know, it's just sort of we got pulled into this, right? Maybe I say pulled in, maybe you pushed me into it, like sort of like she stuck me out in traffic.
Well, it shows that we're listening.
Here, Frank, you do it.
Well, it shows that we're listening to the needs of the advisor population in general.
Yeah, look, our job is to help the financial advisor however we can based on the talents and the knowledge that we have, right? The financial advisor sits at the core of everything that we do.
And I think too, to your credit, with many of these topics that we're going to bring up, really just generally speaking today, because there'll be more to come.
Yeah, there's so much more to do on one podcast. So
exactly. But you've really touched on each one of these categories in different ways and maybe seen, you know, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, failures, successes. You sort of already with our business been through that stuff.
Right.
So our guidance is real.
I've made plenty of mistakes, done a lot of things right, made a lot of mistakes, but those mistakes are where you learn the most, right? But I think that what I've tried to do is, and it really came from working with an advisor when we moved their practice, or help move their practice. It's one thing to sort of like, okay, make the decision to move to the new firm or make the decision to move or wherever it is. That's not what we're talking about. We're also not talking about, which we've talked about on podcasts before. Maybe we'll add a new wrinkle to it, but we're not talking about how to get your office space. We're not talking about any of those things, right?
That's the pre.
That's really the
pre-transition.
We're talking about you wake up after 90 days and your clients are moved over successfully, and all of a sudden now you went from being a practitioner at Morgan Stanley. I'm not picking on any but firm. I'm just saying you're going from being a practitioner at a wirehouse firm where you had a branch manager, you had an operations manager, you had a compliance person, you had people doing things for you and helping you manage your team because the branch administrator with the operations manager, whoever it was, they had meetings with all the sales assistants, right? They had meetings with all the support staff that you didn't even care about because you didn't care what they were talking about. As long as it wasn't going to slow your practice down, those people did those things with your assistants. If you needed a new assistant because your assistant just quit, you went to your branch manager and said, I need a new assistant. And somehow magically 2 weeks later, somebody appeared, right? When you run your own shop, you have to do all of those things. And so we typically consult with our clients in this sort of, I'll just call it practice management space, like with sort of 6 categories in no particular order, but I sort of think number 1 is hugely important. And that is like what I call sort of employee management and leadership, right? That's hiring, firing, training, all of those things go into building a practice that's really successful because, as most business owners know, your employees and the employee line item and expense is generally one of your biggest expenses in running a practice. So you want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. You want to make sure that you're hiring the right way. There's an old expression that says hire slow, fire fast, right? Take your time to hire the right people. And when you know that someone's not right for your firm for any number of reasons, which we're not really going to get into today, fire quickly.
Well, you have a set of metrics, in that practice management category of employee relations or really old school HR functions. We started having a debate about the terminology, but now you're responsible for those metrics. And so those are some of the things that I think, episodes to come, we can discuss.
So we have to figure out, again, we're not going to cover them here, but what are the metrics to which you measure your employees? And some of those metrics, they're measurable, but not necessarily a hard number. So your core values, which we've talked about on a podcast in the past, right? Your core values are sort of like a playbook and our set of rules for hiring and firing, right? At a minimum, that's what you should be doing. So we are going to come out with a series that gets into more of each one of these things.
Employee relations and
employee
culture.
Relations, right? Exactly. So we coach on that. I have calls where someone just wants to pick my brain about how to handle a situation because, again, as someone that's been doing this for 30 years and I was a branch manager and everything, I dealt with every sort of HR type situation you might come across. I'll give you an example. I was in, I can't get into all the details, but I was in Capri, Italy, and sitting next to a great guy at a restaurant who happens to be a multi-billion-dollar private wealth advisor at Morgan Stanley. Super nice guy. And as we were sort of talking, coming back because we were coincidentally staying at the same hotel, and we started talking about some issues that he deals with as a practitioner and some HR related stuff. And I gave him some pretty direct advice on how to handle a situation because I've dealt with it. Meaning, as a manager, you deal with these things. And as an advisor, you may not always have to deal with those things because you have a manager or somebody else to deal with it. So I gave him some advice on that. That's the kind of stuff that we look at as it relates to helping our clients on the coaching practice management side with the sort of employee management stuff. There's also working through, what kind of tools do they have in place for training and developing? And the firm that you go to might have tools, but they may not be specific to your firm.
They have continuing education.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about continuing education. Right. Yeah. I'm talking about becoming better at what they are for your team. So we're going to talk about those things, but you need to be thinking about employee management and leadership. I say that on purpose because there's a difference between management and leadership, right? Employee management means, are they doing their job every single day according to whatever the definition of their roles are, right? Leadership is, what are they doing when you're not around, right? And are they saying the same things? Do they have the same values as you? When you're not around, is it as if you are around? So how are you leading your organization? And so we go into some of those things. The number 2 one, and again, I touch on this only surface level because I don't get into the investment management side. Candidly, when I was a financial advisor, I didn't really care for it. It just wasn't my thing. But coming up with an investment strategy and I say strategy, but a process. You might have a strategy, but is it a written process? If you're not there, can your company and team run that process without you? Or does it solely rely on you as a financial advisor because you love picking stocks, right? I can tell you
building your models.
That's an awful way to build a business. One of the things we talk about all the time is valuations, and everybody hears all these valuations and 20x and 15x and who got all these valuations. None of those practices that sell for 15, 20x were running all the money themselves. I can tell you that much. So what we work on with some of our teams, our clients, our practice management clients, is how can you accomplish the same thing that you're doing for your clients in terms of, managing money, do it more effectively, efficiently, and removing, the sort of the one person, maybe that's you as the owner, out of that decision-making process, but in a way that your clients don't lose the what they've enjoyed the most about it. And it doesn't mean you can't talk about stocks with your clients, but it's slowing you down, it's slowing the growth of your practice down if you have to spend all your time doing that. Now, maybe you like doing that, and my advice then would be to hire someone to run your company.
Right. And that's part of the practice management conversations is should you continue to be the investment manager or the CIO or the person that's building the models, or are you better off doing more revenue generating responsibilities like bringing on new clients? And I don't think we want to give away the farm today.
No.
But just something to think about as our series progresses is what are the most efficient ways for you to run your business? Those are the conversations I think we're having in this practice management topic.
Right. And is your investment strategy and process helping you or hindering you? Right. Number 3 is marketing and business development. And let me just
that's a big one.
This is a big one. I literally, before we just got off this, we started recording this podcast, I heard one of our team members talking to an advisor, and he was asking him about how does he grow his business. And the response on the other end of the phone was essentially, well, I get referrals. And, to the good training that we have done here, he asked a follow-up question. Well, how do you do that? And the advisor didn't have an answer.
How do you quantify that?
It was basically, again, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you should watch our YouTube channel. I'm basically crossing both my fingers, right? This advisor's marketing plan was a hope and a dream, right? Like basically I cross my fingers, I wake up on Monday mornings and close my eyes and wish to the fairy lady that I get a referral this week. That is not a way to grow a business, right? So, and marketing and business development is different than branding. I think there's a huge misnomer there too. Branding and marketing are different. Think about it this way. Branding is what the clients think of you, how the clients think of you when they see your name or when they see your website. Marketing is how do you take advantage and generate revenue from the branding. And I think that there is some disconnect.
Well, marketing is more the holistic plan. There might be multiple avenues within marketing. Right. Branding is just one piece.
Branding is who you are as a practitioner. Marketing is how do you execute on generating new business, whether that's through Instagram, Facebook, referrals. Okay, so referrals is one solution, but what process do you have to generate more referrals?
Right, the referrals are the result.
A referral? That's a great point, Stacey. A referral is the result of something, right? And if the result is, well, it's a hope and a dream, right? It's the result of a wish. But you have to proactively do stuff to develop referrals. And so do you have email campaigns? You send out newsletters, you use whatever it is. We get into that, and we'll get into that in the next call. This is the kind of stuff, the open dialogue that we have with clients about what are you doing on business development. Now, self-servingly, we have a marketing and branding company called Elite Marketing Concepts, where we work on these things and help develop your story, your brand, your website, your campaigns, your newsletters, all of them, capturing the information on the traffic that prospects are going to your site, and then converting that into sales. But our real conversation is just to get you to think about it, just to start getting you to understand the difference between branding and marketing. And again, crossing your fingers isn't a marketing plan. So we talk about that. Number 4, this is an interesting one because no one really talks about this, and that is fee structure and pricing. And funny, I've been talking about this topic. I started as a branch manager in 2004. So I've been talking about this topic for 20 years, literally 20 years.
And so let me guess.
Right?
So in your ex-wirehouse world versus in your business ownership world, this is sort of a leading question.
Yeah.
This topic is probably comparing apples and oranges, 2 totally separate things from one environment to another. I'm sure there's some crossover, right? But how would you differentiate fee structure and pricing in the W-2 world versus business ownership world where practice management has to come into this conversation too?
Yeah. So I don't know if that was a trick question or not a trick question, but in my world, I think
I was setting you up.
I think in my world, I think it's the same topic, right? Whether you're selling advisory services, you're selling marketing services, consulting services, plumbing services, dog walker services.
We do that too.
Whatever. We'll do that too if you need us to. No, we won't do that.
No.
What's that expression? Price is an issue in the absence of value. And what I've seen over 20 years, of sort of being in the branch manager world and working with advisors in multiple states and multiple branches, is you give your business away. You are not charging enough. And I get the whole, competition, pricing pressure. I call bullshit to that.
My clients would never pay a recurring fee.
My clients are not going to pay a recurring fee. My clients aren't going to pay me 1%. Well, then they shouldn't be your client, right? Or set up a different service model. No problem, Mrs. Jones. If you don't want it, my fee for this program is 1.5%. Well, I'm not going to pay that. The guy at Morgan Stanley is only going to charge me 1%. Okay, so of all the services that you work with us on, quarterly meetings or monthly meetings or whatever it is, which of those services do you not want to do, right? Have a watered down version of your services. Now, if you're an RIA, if you run your own RIA, that gets a little bit trickier because you have to disclose all that stuff in your ADV. And you have to make sure that what's in your ADV is actually what you're doing. Because when the SEC comes in, and again, they will come in, and they will look at your ADV, and they will look at your fee structure, and then they will look at all of the fees that you've been charging your clients to see if they match up. And if they don't, they're going to make you pay the difference. I promise you, I know for a fact this has happened to several RIAs that we work with, where they made the advisor go back and credit all of the clients that were paying a higher rate than what was in the ADV, made them give all the money back. So, ouch. But my bigger passion about this is what you do for a living is really, really, really important, right? And it's like going to the doctor, right? When you go to the doctor, you don't negotiate the price, right? It just is what it is. You want the best doctor, you're going to pay for it.
Pay up for it.
Pay up for
the service.
Right. So you're diminishing your value by basically letting the client dictate what your fee should be. But the other thing is,
but that's one of the things
it doesn't have to be like black and white.
But that's one of the things that we consult on in these practice management conversations.
Right.
Because it's really, really important and you need to get it right.
And I'm not talking about huge swings in fees. You should look at how much more revenue could you add if you only charged 10 basis points more? The difference between 1% and 1.1%, to a client that may not mean a lot. But if you add up that 10 points over the $300 million in assets that you have, or whatever the number is, right? That's a lot of money. That could be another staff person. That could be giving bonuses to your staff people, right?
It's a way to scale your business.
It's a way to scale your business, right? Use that differentiator, that 10 points, and create enhanced bonuses to your staff for wow experiences, so that the 10 points won't matter at all for your clients, because they're going to be so happy with your services, they don't give a shit that you're charging them 1.1 versus 1.
So I think these are the things why advisors are asking us, help me. There's so many pieces to this puzzle here.
Right.
So many pieces.
So that's fee structure and pricing. The next one, and it sort of goes hand in hand to what we just talked about, and that is what kind of client relationship system do you have? What kind of processes do you have when a client or prospect calls you? Like, as an example, like, you meet with somebody, you wished it, you hoped and a dream it, right? Someone calls you and says, oh, I was referred to you by my accountant. He's apparently your friend. I'd like to talk with you. Once the client says, I'm interested, what do you do next? Like, what happens?
Right. And what's the experience? What is your intentional experience that you want that client to have, so that it can be rinse and repeat for the next client, so that every client has Frank's practice will give us X, Y, and Z.
Right. And so that all of these things that we try to do when we're consulting with a client are creating efficiencies in your business, because the more efficient your business runs, the faster it can run, the bigger your business can grow, or maybe you don't want your business to grow that much, the less stressful it will be to run the business that you have for you and for your staff, right? So what are the processes and workflows? So we use Salesforce a lot. We have some business that we do where we consult with our clients on setting up workflows and everything. But what are the workflows that you and your team have to deliver a wow experience to your clients? Not just like when they sign on, but throughout the course of the year, so that you can retain all your clients, because getting a client is hard. We all know that. So you have to make sure that you don't lose them out the back door. You might be getting a lot of referrals because you're a good salesperson, but if your client retention process sucks and you're losing them out the back door, you're going backwards.
Well, it's the client experience. What is your practice build out? What systems, what experiences, what ideas of reward to the client do you do?
Right. And they're easy wins. Like, there's so many easy things that you can do. And again, we'll cover on our series, but there's a lot of things that you can do that you can automate that still wow your clients without you having to have a heavy lift or hire other people to do it. So, and then the last one that I talk about a lot, because I do a lot of this myself, and I do not think there's enough of this in our business, is continuing ed, but not so much continuing ed, but more about professional and personal development. I think that there is not a lot of this going on in our space. And the advisors that we work with, that the biggest advisors, for the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, let's put it this way, the biggest advisors who are the happiest, right, are massive consumers of personal and professional development. And when I say professional development, I'm not talking about how to be a better stock picker. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how to be a better entrepreneur, how to be a better business owner, how to be a better leader, how to be a better boss.
Build a better culture in your firm.
Right. All of those things are not taught as much as they should be in our space, especially considering the flow and the movement of advisors going from the W-2 channel, where there's none of that, over to the independent channel, and where you become a sort of an entrepreneur business owner. And I worry about that because I worry about it. I think that when you become a business owner and an entrepreneur, and somebody decides, this is our philosophy here, and you've heard me say this, right? Someone decides to join our firm from, doesn't matter where. It doesn't matter what their experience is. They made a decision to join Elite Consulting Partners. We have an obligation as leaders at this firm to do whatever we can to become better for them so that they can make their career successful here. They chose to decide to join us. And you as a business owner have the same responsibility. And so if you are not growing yourself to become a better version of yourself, why should the people around you want to do that? Want to do that?
Right. And there's so much content out there. I mean,
Oh
how
my
many
God.
podcasts, how many books? I think it's coming at us from all different ways. But what's the percentage of that content do people actually act on and deploy into their business? And I think that's one of the areas that we can sort of help narrow the playing field and give our suggestions.
So we share a lot of that stuff with some of our clients, right? I was just away for a couple of weeks, and I say that I listened to about 20 plus hours of content, both business and personal development related, but it's probably way more than I just lost count, right? Even coming back on the plane, which was a 9.5 hour flight, like I was reading for 9 hours on stuff to help me become a better leader and a better business owner so that I can help all the people at the firm here, right? I don't think that it's talked about enough when you, as an advisor, deciding to go from a W-2 platform into independence, right? And yeah, all these firms talk about our technology and a bunch of different things and why you're going to make more money here and our payouts and our costs and all those other things. None of them, and I've been in, I'll say dozens, but dozens and I don't know, I lost count how many meetings with these firms. None of them talking about how we're going to help you grow as an individual.
We have actually implemented, and again, not to just give a little teaser out to the audience, sort of a book club idea.
Yeah.
Where we're all, we're putting in 8, 10, 12-hour days, but we're all taking time because we are obligated to each other and to ourselves. So this idea of a book club allows us to disseminate content throughout our firm, talk about it, present on it, and it's being received really well.
Yeah, let me just explain. It's not like a book club like, oh, everyone read The Notebook and let's talk about The Notebook, right?
No,
I don't know why I talk about The
personal and
Notebook. It's actually a good movie, by the way.
Development.
It's about, right. So if I'm reading a book on personal development, I want everybody on my team to read that also, because if Stacey's going to read that book and glean something different from it than I'm going to glean from it, but then we share the ideas and it helps all of us. And it's like rising tide lift all boats. Because then what happens is we become better leaders and individuals, and then we can help the people around us. And guess what? When we help people around us, they become more successful, do more business, and guess what? We make more money, right? So this is a passionate one for me because it's actually really the reason why I started doing a lot of the online stuff and Instagram and some of the stuff that I've done. Those of you that listen to me and you listen to me in my car and all that other stuff, is because there's just nothing. I see other industries where they have all this stuff, right? But why not financial services? Do we think we're too smart for this stuff? Well,
I think the message is it applies to anybody building a business, anybody that wants to promote a great culture, attract people to your business, whether it's employees or clients. This is for everybody.
Right. What's your story, right? Part of your story is the things that you do here and why an employee is going to be better off with you versus without you. I mean, they're going to be better off with your organization. And it trickles down to your clients. So when you're helping let's say an administrative support staff person become a better version of themselves, they're happier, and guess what? They're nicer to your clients, right? They become a nicer individual to work with, and then your client experience goes up. So all of those things. So for us, our client is the financial advisor, and so the more we can help the people at our firm become better who they are, the better they become for the financial advisor, their client. And as a financial advisor, your client is your investment client. It's just the same thing. So
I think for the purpose
we spend a lot of time with this, and I think that advisors, listen, our industry is a type A personality industry.
No.
And in order for you to dive into personal development, one has to acknowledge that you're not perfect, right? And I know for a lot of advisors, that's hard to do.
We're not perfect.
Right. But the fact of the matter is you can always be better at whatever it is you're doing and who you are as an individual. And we try to get our clients to consume something. One of the things that we do, I was a co-founder of something called the Financial Advisor Success Syndicate. And you can go to joinfass.com. And I just looked yesterday, we have 750 members, which is great.
Yeah.
And it's all financial advisors. You can only be a financial advisor to be in this community. And it's a sharing of ideas. It's on a school platform, SKOOL. And it's just about sharing about all sorts of ideas.
That's the stuff.
And some of it is, what podcasts have you read lately? What is your top entrepreneur book? What is your top leadership book? It's that kind of stuff. And we basically got 750 members without even trying, which tells me that there's a need.
There's a tremendous need.
Right. So these are the things that we try to talk about. We're going to put together, because these are important, 6 things. We're going to put together a more in-depth series
Practice
on each
management
one of
series.
these that we hope you enjoy. If you want to talk about any of these things in more detail and want to work with us as one of our practice management clients, you can give us a call. Obviously, you can always call Stacey. What's your number?
856-816-6322 or Stacey@eliteconsultingpartners.com. CEY, don't forget the E, or
Stacey with an E. So you can email me at frank@eliteconsultingpartners.com. You can always call me at 856-316-4651. Be happy to help you. Be happy to work through what your needs are. Again, it's just about, and honestly, some of our best value comes when we simply check in with somebody about, hey, last month we talked about this. Did you do that yet? It's no, I didn't get to it. And so it's an accountability thing, right?
Guidance and accountability.
Guidance and accountability.
That's
So
what it is.
we hope that you enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching or listening. Again, if you're not watching and you're only listening and you're not aware, we have a YouTube channel, Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa, where you can see the both of us on the screen. And share this with a friend. If you have someone that you think needs some guidance and advice, please share this with us, with them. We'd be happy to help them. And that's it.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Great conversation. And thanks
See
for
you
listening.
soon.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. If you're looking for more advice or solutions on any topics in the financial services industry, or you just want to subscribe to our podcast, head on over to eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcasts.